Caitriona Balfe's decision as she insists on divorcing Tony McGill without dividing assets. Caitriona Balfe, a classy screen star, stands out with her elegant beauty and refined acting talent. She meets Tony McGill, a successful, handsome businessman, different from her ex-boyfriends, discreet, elegant, and sober. They started dating secretly after a charity fundraiser they both attended in London. The connection between them comes from frank exchanges, from the light smiles in the afternoon, from the understanding eyes that reach deep inside. A year later, they secretly held a wedding. Both families gave their blessings. The initial happiness was like a dream. They appeared together at red carpet events, laughed together in happy photos, and shared their private lives behind the spotlight. But the secret was exposed one day, when tabloids published photos of the two kissing at the airport, along with speculations about an unofficial love affair. Caitriona began to feel the pressure. Every step she took was scrutinized, every smile, every hug with Tony became a storm of gossip. Tony felt he was being dragged into the noisy world of public opinion. He did not want his wife to have to endure it. Undercurrents in public opinion. When the reputation of Tony's real estate deal in Manchester spread to the press, some blogs began to report, Caitriona married Tony for money. In magazines with negative comments, they said she was taking advantage. Netizens were divided into two sides. One side believed the sincere love story, the other denied it as a media stunt. Even when Caitriona posted pictures supporting an animal protection campaign or participating in a humanitarian film, there were still comments, again blatant PR. Maybe an assistant wrote the article. Tony was even sadder when the press began to scrutinize his wife's finances. They posted, Caitriona owns 20% of Tony's company, a figure that was spread so quickly that Tony himself had not yet confirmed it. Although they had never discussed the division of assets, the rumor spread quickly. At first, Caitriona tried to resist. She spoke out on Instagram and in press interviews to prove that love had nothing to do with money. But every excuse was distorted. Newspapers wrote headlines like, Caitriona says she doesn't need money, but... Gradually, love turned into a burden. Every time they were together, they were filmed in a negative way. Once, Tony was recorded telling his wife on the phone, not to touch my bank account. In fact, he was just giving a technical warning, not meaning anything bad. But the report said, Caitriona is financially controlled to the point of losing control. She read it and collapsed. The final limit. Caitriona began to feel like a character in a public opinion drama. Every time she endured the comments, Tony would comfort her. You're a public figure, you can handle it. But the consolation became increasingly hollow. She lay awake every night worrying about losing her freedom, her opinions, and even herself. One afternoon, over Zoom with her best friend in Dublin, Caitriona burst into tears. You always side with public opinion rather than me. You don't protect me, you let me become a target. Her friend gently said, do you believe in yourself? Do you know that you deserve a love that is not judged? If you have to live every day just for people to talk about you, you should stop. That weekend, while climbing mountains with Tony in Scotland, she felt her old dream gradually falling apart. On the winding mountaintop, beside a calm lake, she looked at him and knew the question was no longer, do you love me? But, can this kind of love protect me? Her heart was cold. Love had to pay a high price, not for the lover, but for the person outside. Heartbreaking determination. Caitriona decided, if they broke up, she didn't need to share any assets. She was willing to leave empty-handed. Not out of nobility, but because she needed freedom. She called Tony into her office at the Highland Mansion one foggy morning. In the dim light, she made it clear. I don't need money, I don't need fame thanks to you. I just want to be Caitriona Balfe, not Tony McGill's wife. If we divorce, I want to leave empty-handed, without sharing assets. Tony was stunned. He was silent, but his eyes were filled with tears. Maggie, her personal assistant, and the lawyers for both sides were present. They were the first to know about this request. Caitriona looked at Tony confidently. You used to say that I was a person who spoke for myself, never took advantage of you. Now I really do it. I don't need your exclusive protection, I need the right to decide my own life. Tony asked, You can attract me with money, but that's not me. I stand on my own 2 feet. Caitriona nodded. Exactly. I just want peace. The lawyers on both sides took note. All the papers began to be drafted. She refused to divide the property rights, joint ownership. She only wanted a small amount for moving expenses and living separately for 6 months, a necessary allowance, not in exchange for real estate or capital. Reaction from society and Tony. When the information spread internally to Tony's management company, they strongly objected, so you lose a large amount of assets. The public will understand that she is someone who deliberately wants to keep the name of the ex-wife. But Caitriona was determined. She gave an exclusive interview to a major New York magazine, not a tabloid, to tell her story from a woman's perspective. In the interview, she said, Love is not a financial contract. There were times when I was willing to lose everything to keep myself. The statement resonated. Many women saw it as their voice, that losing yourself in love is not worth it. Public opinion was divided. One side admired her determination and saw it as a symbol of female autonomy. The other side criticized her for being rich. Why are you leaving empty-handed? Caitriona added, I have lived from that time until now without needing your money. Tony was wavering. He had thought that they would divide their assets fairly, but he still wanted to keep her. When the interview was over, Caitriona said, If you want a part of that money, you can do it yourself. I won't take anything. The signing and the final decision. Finally, a peaceful morning in the Edinburgh law office. Caitriona is wearing a pale white dress, her long hair fluttering in the breeze from the window, while Tony stands silently. There is no argument, no litigation, just a clear agreement. Caitriona gives up all the joint assets, if any, to Tony. She will only receive a small allowance to cover the costs of moving and settling in for 6 months. She does not ask for any personal rights to the brand or the investment capital that Tony has built. They sign the agreement in front of the lawyer, not sharing the details with the public later. After signing, Caitriona looks at Tony, her eyes sad and determined. I don't regret it. I want to leave, but it's still me. Tony shakily put down his pen. They finally ended with a hug, a peaceful but sad hug. Divorce and freedom. The next day, the news spread widely. The newspapers headlined, Caitriona Balfe divorces Tony McGill, leaves empty-handed. Some pages applauded. She is a symbol of freedom. Some protested. Pragmatist, now thinks himself noble. But Caitriona didn't care. She rented a small apartment in Dublin's Old Town. She started over, accepting small scripts, participating in international charity projects. I just want to get back to work and live on my own merit, she said. The buzz gradually died down. A few months later, she was invited back to play a major role in an epic film. Tony continued to manage the business. He developed the company, but his eyes no longer had the same color as when Caitriona was by his side. He rarely appeared in romantic images. Many said that Tony lost a talented woman. Many said that Caitriona kept her dignity. Attention turned to the question, will she love someone else? But for Caitriona, life begins with loving yourself. Open ending and strong message. The following year, Caitriona appeared on stage at the Cannes Film Festival, without Tony to pick her up. She wore a bright yellow dress, confident, and smiled slightly as a message. She had come back to life. A journalist asked her, "Do you regret it?" She smiled softly and said, "It's not the end, but a new beginning. At least I protected the most precious thing. I am free." Tony appeared at a business conference. He shared his lessons on managing public pressure, being careful with rumors. He ended, "I used to own many things, but losing the other person can make you lose yourself." The story ends not with sadness, but with the determination of a woman, willing to give up her reputation. Money, to keep the real person. It inspires. There are values that can be bought, and what is important can be greater than any possession.